You know, when the famous maritime cartoonist Michael Dieter made international news again recently talking about the importance of obituaries to encompass a person's life, he was talking about the importance of being honest in his mother's obituary. Well, this guy, he had probably one of the most unique obituaries that were ever published in the Winnipeg Free Press. Now, David Hrechkosy, Hrechkosy, was a key player of the California Golden Seals in the mid-1970s. So important, he led the Seals in scoring in probably in what I call the most important one-season wonder in Seals history. Now, born in Winnipeg, Manitoba, he passed away from brain cancer a few years back in 2012. We're going to be quoting from his obituary because it gives him full justice of what he meant to his family, friends, and colleagues and teammates. But the person known as a wrecker, David John Hrechkosy, was born November 1st, the day after Halloween in Winnipeg, Manitoba in 1951. Now, he first came to major prominence with the West Kildonan North Stars of the MJHL with a solid season in 1970, 43 points in 48 games, including 28 goals. He moved on to the non-WHA Winnipeg Jets in 71, the WCHL with 37 points in 57 games, including 16 goals with 7 points in the playoffs. Now, 72, he split time between the New Haven Blades of the EHL, really vaunted franchise in 72, 31 goals in 75 games, 9 points in the playoffs, and also played 3 games in the EHL with the Province Reds that year. In 73, made the jump to the Rochester Americans of the AHL, 39 points in 70 games, scoring 15 goals. 74, he was in Salt Lake most of the season, where he had 71 points, 78 games, but played 2 games for California. Now, here is where the story of his obituary tells more of the tale. Now, according to his obituary, his motto in life was, "I was sent down here to entertain all you Americans," was the way David John the Wrecker Hrechkosy conducted his life with his family, friends, and confidants. Again, he died March 7, 2012 from complications from brain cancer, glioblastoma multiforme brain cancer. Now, according to information provided by the obit, he grew up with a stick in one hand and he iced his feet in his backyard. Dave ate, drank, and dreamt hockey as a youngster and played the sax on the side. At a young age, he left home to play junior hockey in Bellingham, Washington, eventually signing his first NHL contract with the New York Rangers in 72 at the age of 21. Again, he went on to play 5 years in the NHL, skating for the St. Louis Blues, the California Golden Seals, Oakland Seals, and in the minors with the New Haven Nighthawks, Salt Lake Golden Eagles, and other myriad franchises. Now, one fateful night while playing with the Salt Lake Golden Eagles, he met his soulmate and best friend, Terry Tapp. They went on June 9th, 79 Winnipeg, and were lucky enough to spend the next 32 years together, laughing, partying, and living every day as big as possible with each other. Upon Dave's retirement from hockey, Dave and Terry settled in Salt Lake City and began working for Coca-Cola. When he made many lasting friendships through his employment there, it led him to his next endeavor at of all places, the University of Utah Athletics Department as a concessions manager. On April 1st, 2004, he was recruited by Texas A&M to run their multi-million-dollar athletic concessions department. He eventually fell in love with Texas A&M and the spirit of Aggie Land. He lived every day for the Aggies, and every event he worked, he poured his heart and soul into, no pun intended. He had to retire due to his illness after seeing the Aggies join the SEC. Dave and Terry were blessed with 2 children, 2 amazing children, Macy Ann and Gary David. They had many great times in the Catholic school system, running the home and school board at Our Lady of Lourdes. Some of their favorite memories were watching Macy play basketball at Judge Memorial and watch Gary play football for Juan Diego. The proudest moments were when they saw each one of their children receive their degrees from the University of Utah. Now, Dave loved living life to its fullest, whether it was celebrating the 4th of July with neighbors, family and friends, golfing with the Buzzards, fishing with cousins on Lake Winnipeg, watching Kentucky Derby, or jet setting with his wife to San Diego, San Francisco, Vegas, New Orleans, and Mexico. Dave always said, "I will have no regrets," and there is no doubt that he had none. Now, for me, as a young person growing up in New Brunswick, watching the California Golden Seals, and especially that season where Hrechkosy had the 29 goals, that 1975 season, ladies and gentlemen, was rough for the Seals, and we're going to talk a little bit about it to give a little bit of background, because it just seems this was the year, not saying that ended the franchise, but caused it major problems. They had some good players that year, and when I say good players, I mean really solid players. Any team that has Len Frigg and Jim Nielsen and Stan Weir and Joey Johnson and different people are not too bad. So to put Hrechkosy's career into perspective, you have to mention this season. Now, this was their 8th season in the NHL, and the team continued to be operated by the league until early '75, when new local ownership led by Mel Swig, owner of a Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco, was found. The Seals did adopt new uniforms this year with new turquoise and gold colors. They recorded a 15-point improvement over the previous season, but by early '75, rumors began to circulate that the Seals would be relocated to Denver, although this did not come to pass. Now, the big bummer that year, of course, the Seals suffered the indignity of losing at home to the expansion of Washington Capitals 5-3, providing the Caps with the only road win of their inaugural season. Now, 1948 and 13, 212 goals for, where Hrechkosy had the majority of them, with 29, 316 goals against. Now, Hrechkosy in that season, it was quite different. You got to understand, I just said, they gave up 100 more goals than they scored. Despite this, Hrechkosy, in his rookie campaign, he should have been more consideration for Rookie of the Year. 29 goals, 14 assists for 43 points, with only a -17, with only 25 minutes in penalties. Now, by 1976, he was splitting time with Salt Lake in California, but found himself eventually with St. Louis as well. Had 12 goals in NHL that year in 51 games. 77, he only played 15 games with the Blues, with 1 goal. 77 with Kansas City. The Blues of the CHL, he had 21 points in 45 games. Now, Salt Lake Golden Eagles, he came back to them in 78, 17 points in 59 games. 79, he had 2 games with the Saginaw Gears, but with New Haven, he put up 35 points in a regular season and 13 points in the playoffs. In 1980, in his last minor pro game, he had 1 game with New Haven in that season. Now, final NHL totals, pretty decent. 66 points in 140 games, including 42 goals, and of course, 1 playoff goal, a big one, for St. Louis in the 76 playoffs. But talking about that 74-75 season, they had a really good draft that year. They picked up Rick Apton, Ron Chipperfield, Bruce Affleck, and Charlie Simmer. So they were coming on. But they were in a really rough division. They were in a conference with Buffalo and Boston. Can you imagine? The goal differential, -104. And if you look at the rough stats, they had a terrible October, November that year. They really didn't get rolling, but January and February was even worse. Now, that year, Larry Patey had a good season, 25 goals, Stan Weir at 18, Al McAdam at 18, Joey Johnson at 14, Dave Gardner was there that year at 16, the young Rick Hampton and Charlie Simmer made the team, and of course, our big Jim Nielsen as captain at 20 points in 72 games, but the Joey Johnson was captain that year, so, but Mike Christie was there as well, Morris Mott, Frank Spring, a young Brian Lavender, Joe Malash and net, Stellan Gilbertson, Fred Ahern, Craig Patrick, Terry Murray. And you had Gary Simmons as well as the other key goalie for California. So with Milosh and Simmons in net and all these young players. But it just was a bummer, ladies and gentlemen. But what really stood out for a lot of people was the Reggie Leach trade, because he picked up McAdam, Larry Wright, and Ron Chipperfield for Leach before the draft, and then Mike Kriske and Len Freed came in, John Stewart, Brian Lavender came in, Gary Simmons came in, Dave Gardner came in, Frank Spring came in as well. So it's kind of weird how it goes. They had about 2 or 3 good lines, but they were put against heavily established offensive teams. And Toronto and California had a nice little rivalry. But Hrechkosy, that 29 goals, again, good on the power play, good on the two-way play. But it's kind of sad we forget the nice talent that the California Golden Seals had. But in all due respect, ladies and gentlemen, he didn't. Marshall Johnson and the system he brought in, the head coaching staff didn't really know what to do, because they were behind 3-0 before the start of the second period most games, because California's defensive style wasn't there, and you weren't scoring any goals. But Hrechkosy's 29 goals that year, not saying it was a complete miracle, but you look at the pressure of winning 19 games the whole friggin' season. You play 80 games, ladies and gentlemen. You're winning 19, and every game on the road is rough, and I tell you why. Let's do the rough stats. The early part of that season, they were on the road for a 5-game road trip. They lost 7-3 to Detroit, tied the Rangers 5-5, lost 6-1 to Buffalo, 5-1 to Montreal, and 5-0 to Boston. Then he went on another road trip, lost 5-1 to LA, 10-1 to the Islanders, 4-1 to the Flames. Went on another mini road trip, 10-0 to the Rangers, 6-4 to the Capitals, 4-2 to the Bruins, and 3-1 to Minnesota. So again, the road was tough on them, because we were traveling all the way from the West Coast and going to the East Coast, and jet lag and everything else. It was a rough season. Now, at one point, by my memory, they were 4-17-5 in their first 26 games, and they had a time where they had some success. And usually, the second half of the season, they would get their legs, but the season was completely over. But traveling from California to play Buffalo, played Toronto, it was just, and they got blown out a lot of the games, unfortunately, despite the talent on their team. So Hrechkosy, and a lot of people, the women in my family, liked his look. He had a very, not say bedroom eyes, but a kind of a mysterious kind of look. He looked like a kind of a movie star. And he had that mid-1970s shag haircut of a style, was very popular. But Hrechkosy, the wrecker, my God, I thought at the end of that season he would be a sure bet for being one of the top vote getters for the Rookie of the Year, but, that's the way it goes. And, hometown legends like him, you don't see them as often as possible. But a name like Hrechkosy, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, we used to just call him the wrecker because it was easier to say. But like I said, Stan Weir once said, he said, playing with California in the mid-70s, he said, at least we had the beach. When he lost, he could go to the beach. That's all I can say. But playing in those uniforms too, when he changed it around, because Charlie Finley was involved too as well. It was a freaky time for California sports. So that's the story of the record, Dave Hrechkosy. If you like what we're doing here, we're a California Golden Seals podcast. Let us know what to like, comment, and subscribe. Personally, I love watching the Seals because win or lose, they gave it their best shot. They never quit. Not one game I watched with the Seals, they quit. Because how could they? Because when you play Major League Hockey, you're there because you deserve it. Thanks for listening. Bye.